This is really potentially a new style or a new low, depending on how you look at it. It's a new. My husband, my husband says it's a new low. Why? I feel like
decisive, but I'm just saying.
feel like it's.
I'm just kidding. I love it.
I don't think you are. I don't think. I think that was a lie. My husband is usually he is at jiu-jitsu class this morning, but it is freezing cold and the roads are pretty dangerous where we are, so he decided to stay home for so he's a quitter. So basically he's not that tough is what I'm saying. A little cold weather and forget it. he's home cooking bacon, you know? So, but we'll take it this morning.
You know what?
What?
I'll still get my jiu-jitsu on.
I know you'll still get your jiu-jitsu on. He'll always find a way. Always. So this is a pretty interesting day. We actually have some notable things happening in the U.S. South, historically speaking, traditionally speaking, and also in the U.S. North that I think are kind of important to know about. May not be the first news items you see in the newspaper or if you turn on your television, but I think they're crucial. So today is the final day of Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras means Fat Tuesday, a tradition that dates back in America to the late 1600s. One of my colleagues found an amazing quote from Mark Twain saying, really, if you want to see America, you have to go see Mardi Gras, which is something, I mean, I felt like I read, knew something about Mark Twain. I didn't know that that's how I felt about Mardi Gras. It makes me want to go. I've never been. So if you've been, that's pretty cool. The celebration happens between Christian holidays and ends the day before Lent. Lent is tomorrow, and Lent is usually a time of sacrifice or fasting, and so Mardi Gras is this period before that celebrates the opposite. So to all of our friends in Louisiana, where it's a holiday, hope you're living it up. And I'm looking forward to learning more about that tradition. So that's something that's happening today. And if you feel like you need to celebrate something today, you can just look at your friends and say, you know what, it's a state holiday in Louisiana, Mardi Gras. So there's your excuse. Second thing you should know for today happens in Boston. It's a national historical moment, but it's the Boston Massacre that happened in 1770. And as I was reviewing it last night, because really that's when, folks like President John Adams say this is the start of the American Revolution. Did you know that the first person who died at the Boston Massacre was actually an African-American sailor by the name of Crispus Attucks? I hope I'm saying that correctly. But he died almost instantly when the British soldiers opened fire on this crowd that had been really harassing them, quite frankly. It was a small group of British soldiers and dozens of American colonists. And a mistake, the way that the story is told, a mistake led to the British soldiers to start firing. One soldier got nervous and he fired his musket, and the other soldiers thought that was a sign to fire because there was a lot of chaos. They fire into the crowd. Crispus is the first person to fall, and he's thought of as the first martyr of the American Revolution. And his story was told, as were the others of the 5 men that died that night, that really galvanized the colonists to say in 5 years, this is really the American Revolution. And the reason why the colonists were angry is that, the British were coming in, and this is sort of, I'm going to say it very general, but you let people be free, and then you come in and you want to gain more control. And we probably see that in our lives. I see that with my children, right? You want to give them freedom to create, and then you're like, don't paint on the walls. Cause conflict. This is something very similar in some ways, which is like the Brits were sort of allowing America to grow and expand and create, and then they came in and said, well, we need the taxes because we got to pay for our wars, and we don't really want you expanding west, and we don't really like all these things that you're doing. So, and they were mad, and so here was the beginning of it all. So, but I didn't realize that. So Crispus Attucks is sort of an interesting story. We know very little about him. Some think that he was an escaped slave. But some others say that he was a free man for more than 20 years and worked on whaling ships. Like, his story is kind of all over the place. But it's interesting. I feel like that's a name that doesn't come to my mind when I think about the American Revolution, and I think it's a name that we should know. So we found a picture from the Library of Congress that we'll put up on the website so you can see what he looks like, and you can see sort of how he was memorialized. So I think that was pretty interesting. The other thing that they're sort of switching topics, and Just a couple things I think you should know. Big headlines today. My daughter is stealing bacon. She's fierce, okay? It's like really serious. A couple things, just quick headlines I think you should know. I think you should know that the French president put out an op-ed piece that was published all over Europe today, really talking about European unity ahead of the Brexit, the exit of Britain from the EU that's expected in just a few weeks. Some are sort of questioning why, because obviously he's dealt with his own issues within his country with protests against his platform, but he's sort of calling out like Europe needs to come together during this time. And so it was interesting, this big published op-ed all over Europe. I know we have some folks viewing us from Europe, which I love, from the Netherlands. What's up? And beyond. And so if you guys have anything to share about how that was perceived, I'd love to hear it. Second thing you should know out of Europe today is that there was a second person that had cancer and had AIDS. They went through treatment for cancer, stem cell treatment, and then afterwards found out that they didn't have any trace of AIDS in their body. This is not a way to cure AIDS, doctors say, but it's interesting if we're looking at a way to cure AIDS, what do we learn from those treatments? Also interesting to note, I just caught this out of my corner of my eye, was about a week ago, the CDC put out some data about AIDS in America, which has declined for years and just recently sort of flatlined. So it stopped declining as far as cases and sort of flatlined. So just sort of an interesting thing to know. And finally, we've been searching for this lotto winner of one of the biggest jackpots in American history. It's going to be the single biggest payout for one individual. They finally came forward. We don't know who they are. We don't know if they're a man or a woman. But we do know one anecdote that apparently they were in line to buy their quick pick. So they just got some random numbers. And they let someone go in front of them in line. And they ended up winning more than $1 billion. Their take home is almost $900 million before taxes, I believe. Before taxes, if that makes sense. Yes, it's a one-time payout. So if you're in South Carolina and your friend starts driving a Corvette, maybe you should start asking some questions. Okay, finally, I'm just going to end on a little bit of a sad news, but I think it's been interesting to hear about the tributes to Luke Perry and why so many are so upset by his passing. I mean, it's a sad, sudden story. And for those in my generation, of course we knew Luke Perry. He was on Beverly Hills 90210, the show that my parents didn't want me watching, but ended up watching, especially on reruns. But Luke Perry, it's so sad. We don't know really anything about what happened to him. We just know that he experienced a stroke last week. He was rushed to the hospital, and that's all we know. And then he passed away yesterday, according to his representative. So I didn't really know that much about strokes. I mean, I feel like I talk about, you can talk about a stroke. Oh, so-and-so had a stroke. But what really causes it? And Dr. Daria calls her as you know, a friend of SmartHER News, a personal friend and an ER doctor who has dealt with stroke victims. And we talked through it, and it was really interesting. She helped with our content today, just so you know, so we make sure we're totally accurate. Basically, it's when a blood vessel in your brain gets either cut off, it could be blocked by plaque, for example. That's one way that it could get blocked, or there could be a hemorrhage, so the blood vessel bursts. And there's a variety of different types of strokes. It can be caused by all sorts of things, from high cholesterol, high blood pressure, family history, obesity, drug use. I mean, it could be a series of a lot of different things. What I think was most important that I learned was that a stroke can be prevented. I thought once you experience a stroke, you start experiencing it like it's not, like you have a stroke. But apparently there's a lot of these pre-stroke signs. So about numbness in your arms, or like dizzy spells, or even a really severe headache that just comes on so sudden. Check out the card today, because I thought it was really helpful to sort of think about things that I may not associate with a stroke that could be signs. And the thing that Dr. Daria emphasized is that you really only have a few hours, so you can't some of these pre-stroke signs will come and go. So you could say wow, I kind of have I'm a little numbness in my arm, or you're talking to someone and they're a little bit confused, but then they snap out of it, and you think, oh, okay, maybe it was just it was a bad day. Really, any of those signs would be a reason to bring someone to the ER, just to check out, are they experiencing the beginnings of what could be a stroke? And I think one of the statistics is 80% of stroke could be prevented in some way. So that's something I think important to know. Okay, I think that's it. No one knew running for president today, but Hillary Clinton says she's definitely not. The question now is who else joins the race. I'm looking at my husband. Who else joins the race for president? Yeah, I don't know. There's a new person every day, so I'm trying to keep up.
At least 10 more.
You think 10 more? Okay, Leif says 10 more people. I think we're at 14.
10 more.
Which includes everybody from governors to senators to businessmen to a self-help guru.
Tony Robbins?
No, but it's a woman. She actually has a really strong following on social media. What do you guys think? 10 more people? That would be close to the estimates, by the way, because the estimates were close to 30 eventually by the time that the debates start, which are not that far away. I mean, we're talking about this summer. So
yeah, I think because there's not one dominant person.
There's not one dominant, yeah.
It's going to bring more people in for sure.
More people. Joe Biden? Anyone think? You think Joe Biden's going to run?
I think so.
I don't know. Joe Biden. Everyone's asking here in Texas about what Beto O'Rourke's future holds.
Not everyone.
Leif's not asking that question. I'm asking that question. You still see a lot of the, what do you call it on the back of a car? Why am I drawing a blank? I can talk to you about complex foreign policy issues. Thank you. Bumper stickers. Still a lot of bumper stickers around Austin. People haven't taken them off because they're like, there's still a chance. So just so you know, that's some reporting from the ground. Traffic in Austin for you. Larissa's asking, what do you consider a strong following? She has a couple million. This one, and I should know her name. It's Marianne. I can't think of her last name. She's not someone I'm familiar with, but she has like a couple million people that follow her on social media, and she's kind of talking in broad strokes about American leadership when it comes to like how we think of ourselves and our American identity. And I don't think she's that far off to have these conversations, but I mean, you never know, right? You never know who could kind of emerge to the top. Okay, guys, I will leave you alone now. But I think that was a good talk. Good talk? Good talk. Okay. Have a great Tuesday, and I'll see you tomorrow.